This surgery was named after him. Take us back what you remember about Dad playing ball.
So I was 12 and he retired. I used to, when I would go to the ballpark with him, I would full gear, dress up, Yankees uniform, stirrups, none of these socks, like full stirrups, tape them up, glove, wristband, go to the park. Highlight for me was going to take ground balls in the outfield at Yankee Stadium. You couldn't do it on the infield because it was all prepared. And then going in the tunnels and watching him prepare, watching him throw BP, watching Don Mattingly take pitches. He never swung, he would take and track pitches. And I was just getting a glimpse of these guys who were just my dad's friends. I didn't know the capacity as to what I was exposed to. And then nights he pitched, we'd either miss school or go to school late the next day because we would go out afterwards. And I still remember to this day, I have no idea how he did. I wouldn't follow pitches. I wouldn't even watch how he worked batters. It was none of that. Yeah. I just loved when he would come out of games in Yankee Stadium because the whole place would standing O, regardless of how he pitched. And I'm like, Mom, is he coming out? Mom, let me know when he's coming out, because I'd be playing. Yeah. And she's like, okay, I think he's coming out. And then I'd stand on my seat and would look, and he'd walk out, and Yankee Stadium would clap for him, and I got goosebumps. Now, that was my remembrance of what he was like as a player.
Wow. So Dad was throwing hard, great pitcher, won all these awards, but something happened physically, right? So tell us what you remember about that, or what he's recounted for you regarding his throwing arm.
So now, when he had the surgery, I wasn't born yet. He had already pitched 11 seasons in the big leagues. His team was going for the World Series that year in 1974. He was 13-3. He had had elbow pain for about 11 years. He had had over 40 cortisone shots.
Wow.
So his body was warning him for a pretty good amount of time. For 11 seasons, that's a career. If you just shut it down, and I say he made this professional, spectacular, superlative performance 3 times. One, to pitch 11 seasons at the highest level of baseball and be good, an all-star, World Series candidate, everything else. To come back from a surgery that had never been done. That's 2. Just something to throw 1 pitch after a surgery that had never been done. And then to pitch another 14, 15 years after that and never miss a start because of his elbow. So what I think, and this is how he talks about it, he was grinding through 11 years, figuring out how to get batters out, how to get the highest level of batters out. 13-3 in 1974, I think he started to realize he's figured it out. If I stay there and sink the ball away more times than they can make a correction, I'm going to win. And then this happened, and it had never been done before. A ligament just exploded. It was, when Dr. Job got in and cut it, it was spaghetti. Oh, it was just an explosion. But again, his body had been warning him up until this point with nothing in plan, no options. Dr. Job goes, I've got this surgery I've done on polio patients' ankles. It's never been done on a thrower before. We could do it, but it's going to be so that you can like throw to your kid and be a father and be a man and be a husband. But it's not, we're not talking pitching. And my dad goes, hold the phone. Is there any chance I have that I can pitch again? And Job, looking at this crazy man across from the table, goes, 1%, maybe? A 1%, 1 in 100%, a 1 in 100 chance. And my dad just needed that 1, and he goes, let's do it. And the rest is history, with no protocol to follow. Wow. So never been done before. The roadmap wasn't there.
So how long was he out for games after the surgery?
So it happened in the end of September. He missed that off season, the whole next season, and then came back in 76. Now get this. Having never gone through this surgery, there's no plan, there's no expectation, nobody knows what to go. Dr. Job goes, you're going to have to listen to your body on this thing. We're following you, which is profound in medicine, which I think is fantastic, right? So he made his first, at a year and a day later, his first 7 starts were in 28 days.
Wow. Wow.
But they're just like, okay, we need to figure out if this thing's going to hold or not. So there's something there. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's the challenge of the body, because the body loves that challenge to grow and adapt. 7 starts in 28 days. He was 10-10 that season, comeback player of the year, and then he's a 3-time 20-game winner, 4-time All-Star, all this stuff afterwards. Something worked.
Was it because of that success he showed after the surgery that they were like, we're just going to name this thing Tommy John?
That's interesting. So the original name that Dr. Job now had to keep giving in interviews was the ulnar collateral ligament transplant surgery using the palmaris longus tendon. Say that.
It's easier to say Tommy John surgery.
And he goes, the surgery I did on Tommy John, that Tommy John surgery. And then it was like, it was the hook. Yeah, that was it. And then it went from there. And then but he's still the most successful one, being patient zero.
Patient zero.
You know what I mean? With no roadmap. There's something there.
So the Dr. Job explained it to him. This is supposed to be done after your athletic career so you can have a comfortable life. Where, and talk about the progression, did it turn into this, well, it's going to be a crutch for my athletic career if I should throw something out. I just keep on going. I can just keep on going. I mean, where did you see that progression?
So that's what the greats. If you ask the greats in any industry, hey, what's it take to be great? They'll look at you puzzled. They'll furl their eyebrows and they're like, what are you talking about? What's the thing? There's 1,000 things throughout the day. All the time, you're concentrating on that goal. Everything you do is moving towards that goal. So me as a child, when I would sit and watch him, I didn't really know the capacity of what was going on. I had no idea how to digest it till much later looking back, but then I'm like, he would drive with a softball wedged between his fingers because he wanted pliability of his fingers. Wow. He would squeeze Theraputty all the time. He was walking around. You remember that Theraputty? It was different colors. He would do a rice bucket in his room. He had a Versa climber in his room. He had all these cuff weights around his ankles. Like everything he did throughout his day was in line to come back and be a big league pitcher again. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's this collection of these thousands of mundane acts that put together are the masterpiece. But the brushstroke by itself, that doesn't, the one single shot. And so being that there was nothing, he went on feel. He threw every day off of a mound. He never long tossed. Playing catch was on the mound because he's a pitcher. The mound's his office, so he gets on. He took one day off a week, that was Sunday, and what he noticed was his best days pitching were Saturday, his worst days were Monday. So he did off the mound, threw every day, and he'd throw for time. Where if you and I are gonna throw for time, instead of this boxed in 40 pitch kind of let's throw for 7 minutes. If you feel good, you're going to get more out of that 7 minutes. If you're kind of off, you're going to work a little slower, but you're still going to get 7 minutes. He'd sometimes throw for 90 minutes off the mound, 200-300 pitches. That's how you master a craft.
Right. Over the years, then people started not liking it. Okay. At what point did the surgery make that transition to being an aid, not a second part of life kind of a procedure?
That's the hard part. It's one of those things, we don't fear it anymore. I was on Twitter and this guy was like, let the kid have it. They've perfected the surgery. There's nothing, it's there. You should be lucky to have it. Wait a second, what? To throw one pitch, it's like a 80% success rate, 90% success rate to throw one pitch at the previous level you were at before. I'm sorry. You could rehab with chimps in a cave, come out and throw one pitch after the surgery's done. The surgery is not where the magic is. It's all the stuff afterwards. And Dr. Job even said that. 40% of it's me. I'm just replacing the part. TJ's got the rest. For the rest of his career, that's where that magic is. In my opinion, that magic's lacking, where we go to the surgeon, save me. I'm gonna fit into this protocol, save me. There's no back and forth independent identity within that because it is not an arm issue. It's a total body breakdown. Like everything has to be taken in. Only previously was it addressed from him having no protocol, that he had to feel everything from his toes to his thumbs, from his emotions, from his sleep, from his nutrition, from all this stuff that we just think, oh yeah, that too. But now we have guys having it 2-3 times. Now we're seeing it majority in teens.
And talk about that. As a doctor, when you're seeing these young kids doing this because they've been so hyper-focused on one sport, throw. I mean, what goes through your mind when you're seeing parents doing this to their kids?
I wish it was baseball only. It's all sports. There's concussions, there's pediatric ACL tears. A 9-year-old with an ACL scar already.
Yeah,
an ACL surgery scar. Hello? It should be broken bones and bruises and cuts. So there's something dysfunctional, and there's people coming in with situations. What sport do you play? I don't. It's so much bigger than sports. So the compounding causes, and I say this, it's the American de-evolution lifestyle, and I said that correct, the de-evolution lifestyle, the $17 billion a year youth sports industry. That's bigger than the NFL, and the NFL's entertainment, and not healthy, but youth sports is now bigger than that. And then we've got the parents' race to keep up with the Joneses, and that sport, everybody loses.
The parents that are pushing their kids, and what's the message to them?
You know what's sad, and the youth sports industry is targeting them, and I want to believe that nobody wants to hurt anybody. It's all out for money, and there's just a flat-out lie being sold, because I was on that side of it, where the first lie is your kid's better than they are. They love saying that. Whoa. Your child is good. To evaluate talent before 14 isn't fair to anybody, because it's rare that anybody being good 10 to 12 to 13 is ever good later on. You want to slow down development as much as possible and take as much time as you can. So they pitch you're better than you are, and now you've got them locked in. Oh, and by the way, we've got a developmental program. It's year-round sports, which you're going to be charged, and then we also do lessons, and we have camps and clinics and showcases and indoor facilities, and we got all this stuff, and you're going to stay with us. It's going to be $12,000 a year. It's going to be all this for the hope of a scholarship, which on average, the Division I, II scholarship on average given is about 18 grand. So if you're going to spend $100,000 for an $18,000, I don't know any investment officer that's going to agree with that return. Mind you, in an attempt to achieve a goal, there's nothing wrong with that, but there's a healthy way to marriage it where performance and healing aren't divorced. And on the end, if you don't reach your goal, you're just an amazing human being ready to handle adulthood and goals that you've had in your job or being a parent or a wife or a husband or whatever have you moving forward. But sports are such a small part of our life, but the decisions we're making have this compound effect later on.
Are you encouraging parents then to just slow it down, take it easy, don't push the kids too hard? What's kind of
that's first and foremost is take as much time as you can to develop. So I offer up a solution. We need to rethink, replenish, rebuild, recover. It's easy to think about that. It starts with rethink. We need to rethink the way we're going about youth sports now, and we need to answer one question. Is it working? Until we can say no to that question, nothing is going to change, because it doesn't seem to be working, and you don't have to go far. That's another thing I try to tell parents. Google what I'm talking about. The research and the science is behind you making this decision in the face of the majority, because if you go against the majority, the social backlash coming at you, it's not on your kid, it's your family, it's in the neighborhood, and I've seen it.
Meaning, why isn't Tommy or Jimmy doing this? Why is he not on the team? Why are you not putting him in summer camps like that?
Exactly, and that pressure that comes, and then the parents it's the biggest amount of peer pressure you'll ever experience, because it's different, and nobody likes different, especially when it might be the right way. So we have to rethink, we have to answer, does it seem to be working? No. Replenish. We got to get back to foods that heal and boost performance. Basically knowing our source. We need to know where our food comes from. We don't even know what this stuff is. You know what I mean? The fact that there's a health food section in the grocery store, what's the other stuff?
Right.
And then we got to get back to rebuilding the bodies again of our entire families, which the basic premise to all skill in sport is movement. Right. We have to get back to movement. We're breeding a culture of non-movers, behind screens, sitting in front of screens, sitting in front of gaming. And then finally, the final part is the recovery section, understanding that there is no time frame for development. Every single person is on a different developmental timeline. Everybody, and that's by design. Variability is the key, not confining everyone to these milestones. So one, back off, Google search the information, find the research, have a plan. Have a 4-part plan that the whole family's behind, because the majority are going to come at you.
You're Tommy John's son, and you don't recommend Tommy John surgery.
Absolutely not. You want to avoid surgery at all costs. All forms of surgery is an absolute last resort. Let's entertain all these other options first, because once cut, you're cut. Yeah. You have to rehab from 2 things, and it could be an organ, it could be anything. You need to, 1, get back to the reason you had the surgery in the first place. So you weren't really functioning really well. That's why you had breakdown. 2, you need to rehab from the trauma of what the surgery does to yourself, the PTSD, so to speak, that's imprinted on your nervous system. That's twofold. So you've got two things to rehab from, not just. So we need to take this very, very seriously, but there's always another option, always.
So you're not saying, hey, parents, don't put your kids in sports. You're just saying we got to look at it differently.
Yeah, and that's why I say sports are amazing.
Yeah.
The sport, there's nothing wrong with the sports. It's what we've done to the sports. You know, they teach teamwork and there's social engagement and emotional capacity, how to handle failure, right? I mean, baseball is one of the most failing sports there are. How you process these things, goal setting and everything else. The sports, in essence, in their pure principles, are amazing. But what we've done to them, that's what we need to look at, how we're going about participating.
Tommy John surgery, named after your dad, but should have never be happening to teenage boys, girls, right?
There was a surgery that was done to save the career of a professional.
Not for our kids out on this field.
That's where we want it to happen. What a blessing that we've got breakthroughs in medicine and technology, that we can save a career, the livelihood that somebody can provide for their family, because pro sports are hard.
Yeah.
It's the highest level of competition, and you're a gladiator of sorts. A teenager, if a 15 to 19-year-old, 57% of them, this was 2011 when I talked to the surgeons who did the study, 2011 numbers, 57% of all Tommy John surgeries are 15 to 19-year-olds. But here's the thing, knowing cause of injury, the problem didn't start when the ligament tears. You and I talked about this. So 15 years old, when did that problem start? If we backtrack, we're talking 6, 7, 8. What's
damage
going
years
on?
ago.
Done. It's not the point of, so we always want to look at that straw that broke the camel's back. What was that straw? We got to look at everything that led to that point.
When they come to, what chiropractor, what is
performance
exactly
and healing.
How do you help these athletes?
Yeah, so they got to come in. We have to, one, establish that first thing. I need everybody to admit that whatever they're doing isn't working. You know, and that's comedy, because they love telling me, all their coaches, all their trainers, all the people involved in their development. I'm like, okay, and they're proud of it. But you're coming in with a severe injury of some kind. Let's just, I'm not making fun of anything, but let's just be real. Is it working? No. Okay, because until you say that, you won't be open to everything I'm about to say now, which is kind of the opposite of all that.
Sure.
Then we got to look to the nervous system, the brain, and see how the brain's communicating with the body. Then we got to go in and try to replenish that body, and the whole family has to be behind it. It can't be kids' meals different than everybody else's meal. It's a family affair. We have to get back to moving our bodies again. Sometimes learning back to a 15-year-old injured athlete functions at the developmental of an 8-year-old. So we got to treat them how they were. You got kids how they were when they were 8 years old. What was that like? And we have to go back through that, where it's just constant motion, learning postural ability, basic reflexes, some of the basic stuff. Then they got to go in and address their sleep. Technology, every time they stare at phones for excessive periods of time, lowers immunity, boosts this stress response. So their digestion's off, their immune's down. So everything has to be taken in, and that's when they're backing off, where the mom will be taking notes, and she's like, okay, a lot of people are like, whoa, I thought you were going to give me 2 or 3 exercises and tell me to rest 3 weeks. I had a guy the other day with a broken elbow, literally came in, kid, broken elbow, wasn't healed, wanted me to give him the green light to play shortstop that weekend in October. I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
First of all, don't throw a ball for like 2 or 3 years. You'll be okay.
Yeah.
Participate in some other things. Get outside. Right.
So
again, when we bring in this all-encompassing, it makes sense, and that's the biggest part of it. It's hard though, and that's the thing. It's not an immediate silver bullet, light switch. We fixed it. It's going to be something that's developmental, no different than going into these indoor facilities and claiming what they're pitching you.
So I'm coaching my kids' Little League team right now.
I love it.
This is the time of their age where they're starting to get a little more competitive.
Yeah.
What's your advice to me as a coach and a parent at this point in their life? These are 6, 7, 8-year-olds.
Sure. So it needs to be fun.
Yeah.
The whole thing. It has to be fun. And there are so many games within the game that we could play where it's not like fundamentals like throwing and fielding and hitting.
Yeah.
Like those by themselves are very boring.
Yeah.
But if you have a kid pick up a ball and try to throw it towards an object and run around, like where there's these little games within, they'll figure out the basic concepts.
Sure.
Pepper, running bases,
relay
3 flies
races,
up, you remember all that. Like it's the composite of all those things that then will elicit at some point. They're 7, 8, 9 years old. They're not supposed to be good throwing. They're not even supposed to know how to throw. But they know to project something forward, it has to be fun. They play one team at one time. Yeah. So if they're with you, that's your team. That's it. When that season is over, when your season's over, if summer is there and they're fortunate enough to make another team, they play one more team. Baseball is a spring-summer sport. As soon as summer ends, baseball is done. The glove and the bat and the balls and the cleats go in the closet.
We're in a baseball town.
I know.
You're telling people to only do this half the year.
I know. And dude, here we go. The majority's coming at me. And that's why my legs are strong. But that's the thing. In secret, but in all transparency, to be the best baseball player, if that's your goal, not playing will put you in a better position to be more skill set later, to raise your skill level later.
There's a lot of parents out there that would be surprised to hear you say,
right,
don't play baseball all year round. You're actually going to be a better baseball player if you just do it for half the year.
Right, and that's what's interesting. If we just look at the best, if you pull from the best, I talked to Aubrey Huff, I talked to Kevin Youkilis, who got back to me, love what I'm doing with the book and everything else. Aubrey Huff goes, you know what, TJ, it's frustrating because the only people who get it are former pros. Well, what do you mean? Because we know what it takes to get there. And we know all this stuff that's going on isn't a part of it. So again, taken from the mouth of some of the best who we idolize and who we watch on TV, how did they do it? And they did the exact opposite of what's going on right now.
So, Doctor, we're in a baseball town, and you're telling parents out there, don't put your kids in baseball all season long, just 6 months, 7 months, because they're going to be a better baseball player in the long run.
Right. And so if we look at the best that sport has to offer, the professionals, the highest level.
That's what they did, right?
That's what they did. If we got the Kevin Youkilis, you got Aubrey Huff, who I talked to, and Aubrey Huff goes, we're the only ones that get it, are the ex-pros. Now, there is a time. The best did this early on. There is a time to get very, very specific and very, very competitive. Right. And it is in your late high school years.
Okay.
Late. So if everything's good from womb to 13, 14, 15, you can turn it up then, because
everything
the body,
good meaning physically,
mentally, emotionally, nutritionally, rest, everything's been in line. All right, you've played a variety of sports. You are an athlete. You are this rough, unpolished athlete. Now you're going to get, now you have the foundation to where we can start chipping away, and now look at your rate of growth. I didn't specialize in baseball till I was a senior in high school, at which point I didn't get good till my senior year of high school, and then was the Gatorade State Player of the Year, scholarship player, earned a way onto the Cape Cod League at 5'11", 155, throwing 86 miles an hour. There is a way to do it.
There's a way.
Yeah,
wow.